This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at something slightly different. This is an unlocked Android GSM smartphone. It's called the VeryKool, and that's cool with a K, S470 Black Pearl. Okay, I won't imitate Johnny Depp anymore, but you know, you get the Pirates of the Caribbean reference. They call it Black Pearl because they need a cool name, I guess. It is black. Anyway, the important thing, 4.7-inch IPS display HD. We've got a quad-core CPU inside. And this is only $229 unlocked, no contract, no commitment. We're going to look at it now. So you won't find the VeryKool S470 at your carrier's store, nor will you find it on Asian import phone sites. This is actually from a company based in San Diego in the United States. The VeryKool S470 is available directly from their website, which is verykool.net with K again for cool. And also they sell it on Amazon, $229. And for that you actually get a pretty nice phone. 4.7-inch IPS display. Now, it's not super duper bright as IPS displays go, but it's certainly adequate and it's visible outdoors the way IPS displays are. Viewing angles are pretty good. You can see it losing some in the off angle here besides the glare, but reasonably good viewing angles. Of course, it's IPS, it should have. One thing we did note, a little bit of light bleed around the edges, which is something that we see on IPS displays on notebooks and tablets, but not so much on phones. Again, for $229, we're not going to complain too much. Overall, it's a sharp, pleasing display with pretty good colors. Another nice thing about it is it's running pure Android. For those of you who really like the Nexus experience, you don't like a whole lot of manufacturer customization. Obviously, there won't be any carrier customization here. Well, you've got clean Android 4.2 Jelly Bean here. Just your basic standard Google widgets. There's a couple of applications the manufacturer added. We'll take a look at those. And settings is your basic settings that you were used to seeing on, again, pure Android. So very clean experience. It's not going to bog the machine down at all. And that's a good thing because this is a 1.2 gigahertz quad-core CPU, which isn't bad. It's a MediaTek CPU as far as we can tell with Power VR graphics. So it's a middling phone in terms of power. It's not one of the super fast phones. This is not something that's comparable to the Sony Xperia Z1 unlocked, obviously, and it costs only a fraction of the price too. But it's certainly fast enough to keep up with day-to-day activities for running applications, even some gaming. It's zippy in the UI here. Applications launch quickly enough. No complaints. Now, as to the unlocked part of this, here's the interesting thing. It's unlocked. It's quad-band world phone GSM and 2G, so that's going to work anywhere in the world. But for 3G, it only has 3G HSPA plus 42 megabit per second, which is nice because that's the fastest flavor of HSPA plus, but it's only on the 850 and 1900 megahertz bands. That means only AT&T in the U.S. pretty much, not for T-Mobile in the U.S., and pretty much overseas, you're not going to get a whole lot of 3G. You'll find some 1900 megahertz overseas, but 2100, 900 are also commonly used, 1800 in Asia. This doesn't support any of that, which I think is a little weird because often people who buy unlocked phones, well, they want to use them overseas as well, not just in the U.S. But for those of you who broke your phone, who want a nice phone, but don't want to pay carrier pricing for the phones that they offer, it's still not a bad deal. And obviously, you don't have to go deal with your carrier at all in any way. Now, while we're talking about such things as carriers and SIMs and all that kind of thing, the back is removable on this phone. There's a 2000 milliamp battery, which is pretty much par for the course. Given the mid-range CPU and the 4.7-inch HD, not full HD display, there aren't a lot of power demands on this. There's no LTE. If we take the battery out, simple as doing that, we have a dual SIM card slot here. So for those of you who want to use a phone with two SIM cards at once, this is a phone for you, and those are not the easiest things to find. This uses a full-size SIM card, by the way. These days, most phones are micro SIM. You might have a micro SIM yourself from your carrier. You can either get one swapped back to full-size if you want to use this phone full-time, or there are SIM card adapters that you can use as well, which is what I'm doing with this phone with an AT&T SIM in it right now. On the other end over here, we have our micro SD card slot for expandable memory, compatible with cards up to 32 gigs, so that's SC, not XC cards, up to 32 gigs. And that's good because there's not a whole lot of internal storage here. There's about 1.3 gigs available for your use. So you're not going to be putting giant 3D games on this because some of those can be a couple of gigs apiece. Now, other applications tend to be quite small, so you can put plenty of apps on here. Just not a whole lot of 3D games. But this isn't particularly a gaming phone. It can certainly handle some stuff, and we're going to try out Dead Trigger to see how that runs. So it's not like you're dead in the water for gaming either. It's decent. It's just not the super duper fastest, most cutting edge phone. In terms of performance benchmark since we've been talking about CPU speed, its score is kind of up there with last year and the year before as benchmark or rather flagship phones, so it's not too bad. Quadrant 4017. SunSpider JavaScript test a little slower than we expected at 1480. That test where lower numbers are better. The best phones are scoring 1000 or below these days, but still, that's not a hideous number by any means. Antutu 13,339. Graphics Bench 2.7. Egypt 2.5. Off-screen test 10 frames per second. That's not too stunning. That PowerVR SGX 544MP GPU in here is not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Phone has a gig of RAM inside, which is good. That's pretty much standard for smartphones today in the Android world. And again, we have a IPS display here that is 1280 by 720. So not full HD, but it's certainly an adequate resolution. The Moto X has a perfectly nice display, the same size, same resolution. So not too much of a complaint there, especially again for the $229 price. You can see we have capacitive buttons on the bottom, so you're not giving up any screen real estate. And the usual design, we got a 2 megapixel camera up front. Up top here we have our power button, our 3.5 millimeter audio jack. On the side, volume controls. Micro USB port on the bottom, another microphone hole over here. Nothing going on this side except for the grab hole where you pull the cover off. Speakerphone fires from the rear underneath this grill right here. And up here we have an 8 megapixel camera with an LED flash. It actually takes pretty decent photos. Again, it's sort of comparable to last year's flagships in terms of the photo quality and the video quality. Not bad at all, actually, in the imaging department here. Phone feels pretty nice in hand. It's sort of a soft touch finish right here. It doesn't show fingerprints too much. Not too heavy. It doesn't feel cheesy light either. Just about the right weight. Nice balance. Not as compact again as the Moto X, but few phones are. And again, things like that kind of miniaturization actually cost money. We have an AT&T SIM in here, and you can see we have the HSPA Plus symbol up here. Reception has been good on this, and call quality has actually been quite good as well. Nice, clear voice, reasonably loud earpiece on the phone. So as a voice phone, it gets the job done. Again, 3G HSPA Plus only on AT&T bands, so you're not going to be using this elsewhere unless you want to sell it for 2G Edge, which probably most people don't want to. Now, you do have Wi-Fi as a fallback, and this is one of the few phones that has just single-band Wi-Fi. That's a little bit disappointing. Usually you see dual-band on most smartphones these days. So 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, but no 5 gigahertz band Wi-Fi. It has Bluetooth 3.0, not the more common 4.0 these days. And it can do wireless tethering as well. In terms of software added on by the manufacturer, again, not too much going on here. We have all the standard Google apps. This is an official Google Play sanctioned device, so you can use Google Play Store to get all of your software on board. We've got the Chrome web browser on here. For example, gallery, maps and navigation, all that stuff. Now, they've added their own basic file manager on here. We have an FM radio. You have to plug in a set of wired headphones if you want to use that feature. Got a backup and restore application. All the Google Plus stuff, our Gmail, our email, of course, is going to be on board here. No Office Suite pre-installed, so if you need that, you're going to have to get that from the Google Play Store yourself. SIM Toolkit for managing your SIM Toolkit, a very basic little notes application. Of course, you can find some more full-featured notes if you want, actually, on the Google Play Store, often for free as well, so that is what that is. And we've got our YouTube player, Twitter is pre-installed, and we've got Skype pre-installed as well, which is a free download anyway from Google Play. And we load it up. Ookla speed test so we can see what the speeds are like on AT&T's HSPA network, and we'll take a look at the results that we've gotten. We won't make you watch it run through another speed test. And that's pretty much par for the course on HSPA Plus 3G, which AT&T used to call 4G until they got LTE. We've seen a little bit faster sometimes, but that's in the range of normal for this. And, you know, web pages load just fine. It's not a particularly slow experience by any means. Basic Android keyboard right here. And we'll visit our own website, desktop version right here. And this is on AT&T's HSPA Plus network. We do not have Wi-Fi turned on right now, so that's pretty good speed. I think that most people would call that very usable. One thing you notice that the screen has a kind of cool bluish cast to it, right? It's not a white screen. Pinch zooming speed is reasonably good. And let's play a video so we can hear what the speaker's like and see how that streams. And we'll play our Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 edition video review. Our volume's about halfway right now. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at a pretty cool tablet. This is the Samsung Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 edition. Well, also, lip sync when we zipped it out there should catch up. The 2014 edition, so this is the second generation of the 10.1-inch Galaxy Note. Big improvements here, particularly the resolution. Much higher resolution display. There we go. We've got the lip sync back now. We're going to look at it now. So it works fine. So here it is, finally, the refresh. And checking out the camera, you can see we have HDR mode as an option over there. We've got panorama as well. We've got stitched together panorama, VR panorama. More settings over here. Pretty good for an inexpensive camera. Actually, scene mode, white balance, anti-flicker. Interesting option called zero shutter delay. Let's try turning that on and see what happens. Face detection mode, picture size, and so on, resolution. And for video quality, there's your settings right there. And let's take a picture. We have tap to focus right here. And it's pretty quick actually. Let's turn on HDR mode and see how it does, since that requires more processing power. It wasn't too slow, not too bad. And if we switch to video recording mode, it starts recording right away. And if we go back into there, we can take shots at the same time while we're shooting video. And there's the exciting video that we recorded. So it's not too bad looking actually, huh? Here we are in Dead Trigger, a nice 3D game. Well, not nice in terms of the fact that you're shooting at bloody zombies here, but in terms of quality, it's pretty good. And it runs on a variety of devices nicely. And it does a good enough job here too. Frame rates are fine on this. I don't see any drops whatsoever. Obviously, you're not going to get fancy water effects because this isn't like a Tegra CPU or something uber cool like that, but it works just fine. So there it is, gaming on the VeryKool S470. Battery life on the phone is just fine. Now, honestly, 2,000 milliamps, that was pretty much par for the course for a lot of phones last year. And now some phones have such fast CPUs and giant screens that they need bigger batteries. But considering the fact that you're only going up to HSPA Plus with this, and there's no LTE, obviously, 4.7-inch display, so it's not super duper huge, but running at HD rather than full HD. Battery life, I've had no problems making it through the day on a charge with this device. And obviously, you can swap in spares if you want to, so leaving any concerns you might have when traveling, but I think most people would have no problem getting through the day with this. So that's the VeryKool S470 Black Pearl, and indeed it's a very cool phone. For $229 you get a pretty decent phone, no contract, no commitment. The only thing we'd like to see is more 3G bands for world travel, because generally speaking, when most people buy an unlocked phone, they do have plans of traveling overseas, and you would like to get that faster data, wouldn't you? Anyway, if you're on AT&T, it's certainly going to work well. It's a good fit, and you get pretty decent specs for the price. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Visit our website for the full review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.